APTs. An advanced persistent threat, APT, is a sophisticated and stealthy cyber attack conducted by highly skilled and resourceful adversaries, often state-sponsored or backed by well-funded organizations. The primary goal of APTs is to gain unauthorized access to a target's network and remain undetected for an extended period to steal sensitive information and disrupt operations or conduct espionage. Key characteristics of APTs is they're advanced, they're persistent, their attacks are targeted, they are very resourceful, and they are very stealthy. APTs employ advanced techniques and tools, including zero-day exploits, spear phishing, custom malware, and living off the land (LOTL) techniques that leverage legitimate system tools like PowerShell or WMI. They have an advanced skill set. An example might be exploiting a previously unknown vulnerability in software to gain access. That's a zero-day exploit. APTs are persistent as they can maintain long-term access to their target networks, continuously refining their tactics to avoid detection. Sometimes they're in system for years before they're caught. APTs may deploy backdoors or modify malware to remain operational even after patches are applied. The attacks of APTs are targeted. Unlike opportunistic attacks, APTs are highly targeted, focusing on specific industries, organizations, or individuals. An APT might attack a government agency to obtain classified documents. And they are very resourceful. There are individual APTs, and there are APT groups. These are well-funded and supported, often by other governments, nation-states, enabling them to invest in custom tools, infrastructure, and skilled personnel. They might be able to create unique malware that bypasses security measures, so they could be a full software development team, fully funded, building the software that can take down other systems. And APTs are stealthy as they prioritize evasion, using encryption, legitimate credentials, and lateral movement to blend into normal network activity. They might use legitimate credentials to navigate through a network without raising any alarms. APTs have goals of espionage, sabotage, economic advantage, and political influence. For espionage, they may steal sensitive data, such as intellectual property, military plans, or personal information. They might access emails from high-ranking officials to gather intelligence. So think of large companies as potentially having APTs that attack or steal data from their competitors, and think of government agencies that might have APT groups that attack other countries and steal information that way. APTs have the goal of sabotage sometimes as they work to disrupt critical infrastructure or services. It's often another kind of warfare. The Stuxnet worm from 2010 targeted Iran's nuclear program as an example of sabotage from an APT group. APT groups, both industrial and political, often seek economic advantage. They'll steal trade secrets or financial data to benefit the sponsor's economy or private enterprises. Industrial espionage might target pharmaceutical companies, for example. And political influence can also be a goal of APTs, manipulating information or infrastructure to destabilize governments or sway public opinion. An example could be the accusations of targeting election systems to undermine trust in the democratic process. APTs may use a kill chain life cycle. Commonly, they may begin with reconnaissance. This is where they research their target, gathering information on personnel, systems, and potential vulnerabilities. For example, they'll scan open ports and scrape social media for employee information. The next stage in the life cycle may be the initial compromise, where they're gaining entry to the target network through methods like phishing, exploiting vulnerabilities, and compromising third-party vendors like supply chain attacks. They might send a spear phishing email with a malicious attachment targeted to achieve their goals. The third phase in their life cycle may be establishing this foothold, deploying malware or a backdoor to maintain access. They might install a remote access Trojan, also known as a rat, on a compromised machine. Next, they may go for privilege escalation. As gaining elevated privileges, elevated permissions, they can access more sensitive data and systems, exploiting a vulnerability to obtain administrator privileges, for example. And the next phase of the life cycle, lateral movement, moving through the network to reach their high-value targets. They may use the compromised credentials they've obtained to access other systems to reach their goals. Next, they might execute their attacks and or exfiltrate data. They may extract sensitive data or execute the attack of disrupting systems or deleting files. Transferring stolen documents to an external server would be an example of the data exfiltration. And then they will work to maintain their persistence. They'll ensure ongoing access by deploying additional backdoors, creating stealthy user accounts, and trying to hide evidence of their existence. For example, they may modify registry entries to restart malware after a system reboot. Famous APT groups include APT-28, also known as Fancy Bear. They're associated with Russian intelligence. They're believed to target government agencies, military, and political organizations. An example of an exploit tied to them was the 2016 U.S. election-related hacks. And then APT-29, which is also known as Cozy Bear, and also linked to Russia, known for stealthy espionage. The SolarWinds supply chain attack of 2020 was attributed to Cozy Bear. There's APT-41, which is a Chinese group involved in both espionage and financial crime. They've exploited vulnerabilities in software used by healthcare providers. The Lazarus Group is linked to North Korea and known for financial and destructive attacks. The Sony Pictures hack in 2014 was attributed to the Lazarus Group. And then APT-35 is also known as Charming Kitten. They're associated with Iran. They're known to target political dissidents and academics. They're tied to spear phishing campaigns against U.S. universities. APTs are important for cybersecurity professionals to be aware of because they pose very critical threats. APTs target critical infrastructure, national security, and sensitive data, making them high-priority threats. They create challenges in detection, as their stealthy nature and their use of advanced techniques makes APTs difficult to detect and mitigate. Responding to APTs requires expertise in forensic analyses, threat intelligence, and containment strategies. Cybersecurity professionals must implement layered defenses, including intrusion detection systems, endpoint detection and response, and strong access controls for proactive defense. Cybersecurity professionals work to defend against APTs through threat intelligence, staying updated on APTs' tactics, techniques, and procedures to recognize patterns. You'll often hear these as TTPs. And network segmentation. They work to limit lateral movement by segmenting networks and restricting access between segments. Using endpoint security is also important, using advanced endpoint detection tools to monitor and block malicious activity. And user awareness training is also essential, educating employees on phishing, social engineering, and recognizing suspicious activity. Also important is regular patching. Patching known vulnerabilities does reduce the attack surface. And behavioral monitoring, deploying tools that will detect anomalies in user behavior or system activity. APTs represent some of the most dangerous and persistent threats in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity professionals have to remain vigilant, adopt proactive defenses, and continuously evolve their strategies to counter these sophisticated adversaries.